Musings and Modalities. I'm your host, Tristen Stawicki. Think of me as your pragmatic shaman bestie. Join in with other high vibe, lovely people as I unravel spiritual ideas to help create change and growth in your life. I cover a variety of spiritual topics, sharing knowledge to meet you wherever you are in your journey. As a shaman, astrologer, and human design reader, I help you understand how to make informed decisions and incorporate different modalities using discernment in your own intuition. Today, you will gain powerful shamanic healing tools you can use to incorporate spiritual practices in non-traditional ways. Whether you're just beginning or need a knowledgeable best friend with the next phase of your journey, I'm here to help. Stay tuned. Musings and Modalities starts now. Everyone, and welcome to Musings and Modalities. I'm Tristen Stawicki, your pragmatic shaman bestie, and for the next 30 minutes, we'll be diving into building your spiritual toolkit, where I'll share my recommendations for must-haves and introduce a few tools that you might be unfamiliar with or want to kind of deepen how you work with them. Now, these spiritual tools are items you use with a specific intention or purpose on your journey to be the highest and best version of yourself. Having a spiritual toolkit really helps with building your confidence, building up your intuition, your inner knowing, and it allows for several methods for guidance from the universe, right? And this is really helpful as it can offer support in challenging times, in times where you're at a crossroads. You know, it's really nice to know you aren't alone and that the universe has your back. And the items I'm sharing today really help reinforce that fact. So to start us off, we're going to talk about the prettiest, shiniest beauties crystals, right? So there are hundreds of different types of crystals, and they have a variety of properties and are helpful in a lot of ways. Personally, I have no less than like a dozen books on crystals because there's so much to know and learn about them. And it's also really easy to go overboard with crystals, right? When you walk into a crystal shop and you see like all of these colors, it's just like an overload experience. And it can be really challenging to discern like what crystal is right for you to work with, what crystal is just kind of pretty and, you know, something maybe you want to put in your home. So I really want to reinforce that you don't need a million crystals. You don't need huge crystals, right? Even the smallest crystal has power and has an energetic vibration that can be helpful to you on your journey. And what's really important is no matter, you know, where the crystals come from, their size, anything like that, or their properties, I really want to make sure that you understand how to take care of them. And I really like to equate their care to that of plants, right? So you think about the care that some plants need, a lot of sun. Others really don't tolerate sun well. Some can tolerate kind of a lot of water, others cannot. And so you really want to develop a relationship with your crystals to understand, you know, what they need. And some crystals, like you can't even put in your water or they'll, you know, dissolve. And that's really important to know. You also want to make sure that your crystals aren't dusty and they need to have really good energy, right? And so if you think about it, if your home is dusty, if your crystals are dusty, then your energy is dusty. And your growth is going to be really limited and really stagnate, honestly. So I wanted to give a few reasons why and kind of how I work with crystals outside of their beauty and their charm. And so the first way is physical support. So I love using palm stones. For those of you watching the video, I have a lot of items I'll be showing today. So I encourage you to kind of view there. If you're listening, I'll definitely narrate. So I have a beautiful crystal. The palm stone, it really fits in your palm, right? So it's a smaller crystal that you can put in a bag. You know, if you have like pockets that aren't super small in whatever you're wearing, you know, that's helpful to have. And I use these palm stones when meditating. You can also add them if you're someone that does yoga to your mat, which is really lovely. But when I'm in situations where I'm anxious, you know, if you're at the doctor's office or, you know, you're just maybe you're in a car before an appointment that you have anxiety about. What I love to do is kind of hold the crystal in my palm and then I'll put both hands kind of over the crystal. I'll kind of close my eyes and just breathe into it. And that allows me to kind of release that energy that I'm feeling, that anxiety, you know, whatever it is, into the crystal if it's open to receiving it, right? And you do want to check that beforehand. But most of the time they are, and they just kind of are able to transmute that energy. And you just feel better. You feel more grounded. And you just kind of have a release of that energy that really isn't serving you. If you are someone that's going to use them for physical support, I do recommend more frequent charging and checking in on the crystals, right? So if there's a crystal that's kind of always in your bag, I would try to rotate it out. I wouldn't use it every day, all the time, 365, just because that's really can be draining. And then the crystal may break, or get dropped or something like that if there's just too much of that more negative energy, more like lower vibration energy. And so you really want to make sure that you're either charging it under the moon or the sun, depending on their tolerance. You can put them in the earth. I also like to put them near plants. So if they're a crystal that, has maybe been in a bag or somewhere that isn't of the earth as much, put it near something alive that it can kind of maybe be near the soil and regenerate that energy a little bit more naturally. If you do know Reiki, of course, it's a very easy way to use Reiki, have the crystal release that stagnant energy and add in that good, fresh Reiki energy. For the second kind of purpose of how I use it is raising the energy of my space. So in what I lovingly call my craft room, in the room I'm currently in, my office, I have a ton of crystals in here because I really want to make sure that the vibration of this space of my home is of the highest, right? This is where I work with my clients. This is where I spend a lot of my time. And so in the corners, I have crystals. I have crystals behind me, kind of on the shelves. And really what I use them for is to not only raise the vibrational like frequency, but also I can call on them when I need to, when I'm either in session or doing healing work for myself. So for instance, if I'm doing a lot of work with angels, use my angel crystal, celestite, which is one of my absolute favorites. And it's really lovely to have it if I am kind of working with a client. I have like a small altar for the session I can add it to. I can just bring it closer to me to kind of call in that energy. I can physically hold on to it, you know. It's just really lovely to have like a variety to pick from that help with my goals. I also love so I have another space for my like work computer for like my day job, and I try to keep pyrite near there. Right? Because that's kind of that bringing in that abundance from that job, bringing in the opportunities that I want. So I also use it for manifestation and, working on my goals. And all of that is a beautiful way to have a variety of energies flowing through the home. So I have some that are working on future stuff, some that are working just to keep the space in a lovely kind of um, calm energy. Maybe I have some others from my mesa, from my shaman toolkit, where I'm working on maybe some things from the past. And that's just kind of an awesome way to continue to grow in my own journey. And lastly, crystals really build your connection to the earth. So if you're someone that maybe doesn't enjoy going outside, which is absolutely fair, you don't enjoy kind of spending time in nature as much, it's a really lovely way to bring the outside in and to kind of build your connection that way. And it's not something that you have to take care of like an actual plant. You do want to take care of it to a certain extent, but it's a little bit less needy than maybe some other ways that you would try to connect with the earth. It can kind of be a gentle connection. Now, when I did want to add a call out, when purchasing crystals, and when you're thinking about adding crystals to your space, I really want to make sure that they feel alive. And what I mean by that is if I walk into a crystal shop, or a metaphysical space, and the energy just feels like off or dead, I'm not going to purchase there. I really want the vibrancy of the crystals to be palpable because they should be maybe not their highest vibration, but they should kind of almost sing to you, right? They should have a calling to you of, wanting to work with you or having the space to work with you, honestly. And if it doesn't, then I typically just leave and I find somewhere else. Now there could be one or two lovely crystals you kind of find even in that energy that may want to work with you. But for the most part, if the energy of the store is just off or dead, that's not a place that I want to kind of get any metaphysical items from personally. All right, so we're moving on from crystals into herb burn bundles, right? So I have an example here. These are herbs that are tied with twine that you use. And basically these herb bundles are really just gathered plants. They're gathered herbs, obviously, and it does include the stem, right? And this is gathered for a specific purpose. So, for instance, if I want to release old energy in my home, I love using dried mugwort, lavender, rosemary. If you're someone that has a garden, or if you just have a little planter with some herbs, you can kind of sit with those herbs, perhaps say your purpose aloud and start to gather what feels good, what feels in alignment for you to work with. And you do want to make sure they are dried because you want to be able to burn them, right? You want to be able to light them up. Now, you can also create herb bundles, maybe that have more of the kind of alive energy, and hang them in your home. So you could use something like mint, holy basil, cinnamon sticks, and keep it near a purse or wallet to encourage prosperity and abundance kind of in your physical space. There's a lot of creativity that you can have with herb bundles, and it's really fun to kind of test what plants work best with your energy and what herbs do you need to deepen your relationship with. When I do light the herb bundle, when I'm doing kind of a more of a cleansing for my home or lighting it for protection, I use, kind of light it right at the top of it. And then I do blow it out so it'll just smoke, right? You're not trying to burn the whole thing. You really want to be mindful when you are burning herbs because it is an offering. And so you don't have to go overboard, right? Even if you just picked a few, like one or two twigs from this, if you didn't want a whole herb bundle, that still works. We don't want to be wasteful. We always want to be mindful. And we set that intention for protection, for cleansing, for what have you. And then you just walk through your space. You walk through your space, especially near mirrors, near windows, getting all of the corners. Corners hold a lot of stagnant energy. You want to kind of get up as high as you can if possible. And I also love to open all of my windows. I try to open my windows as frequently as possible just to have the wind and kind of the energy of air blow through my home. And that's a beautiful way to release kind of old energy, things that are no longer serving me, or if you've had guests recently, getting their energy out. So yeah, those are kind of beautiful ways that you can deepen and change, how you work with plants, and to add some extra magic to your space. Next is one of my all-time favorite tools. It's something I've used for over a decade plus. I can't imagine my life without, and that is Florida water, right? So this is a bottle of Florida water, and it's a spiritual tool that has origins as an alcohol-based essential oil, that was in 1808, which is so cool. This is the same recipe and the same company, Landman and Kemp, that originally sold this in the 1800s. They are the absolute best, right? This one's my favorite. It's yellow. And what I love about it is both the kind of smell and the energy with it. I have tried to use other Florida waters, and I have not brewed my own concoction of Florida water yet. Um, I have kind of purchased from other people that have done it, like small batch, totally great for them, but the potency of this recipe is still my favorite. And there's a couple ways that I use Florida water, especially if you're someone that hasn't used it before, or if you've just kind of seen it in a store. So I talked about kind of changing the frequency and the energy of my home by opening the windows, right? And so that's kind of a two-part step when I do that. When I open up my windows, I'm cleaning the windowsills with that Florida water. So I'm actually taking like a old rag, using a little bit of that, or I'm making an actual using like a 5-gallon bucket if it's like really dusty or it's been a little bit, putting in water, essential oils, the Florida water, maybe some plant energy is needed, and actually kind of cleaning the window seals, cleaning the windows, cleaning my home as much as possible. People also use it on floors, any kind of space in your home where it won't, hurt what it's on because it is alcohol based is great. I also use it to clean my crystals, especially those that are, more sturdy and they won't dissolve or it won't hurt them. Especially if you're buying a crystal and they have like a sticker on them, which I so hate when they have stickers or any kind of the gunk. The Florida water is able to get it right off if the crystal, has enough hardness that the alcohol won't hurt it. Florida water, I actually go through a lot of Florida water because I use it as offering in ceremonies. So when I'm opening sacred space, when I'm honoring the directions, I use Florida water, right? It's really my go-to all-purpose offering. When I'm doing fire ceremonies, pretty much any time. And what I love to do before I'm about to go into ceremony is I actually rub it on my hands. I want to make sure, especially if I've done energy clearing on someone else that day, or I just want to go in kind of as high vibrational as possible. I'm using Florida water on physically on my hands and being in that space before I'm touching kind of my spiritual tools. Now, there are folks, and your mileage may vary for sure. This may be something you're not as comfortable with, that use it in baths. You know, they use this as toner, they use this as a perfume. Alcohol, of course, is drying. It's absolutely up to you to determine if this is a product that you use in ceremony, or on cleaning and not on the body. But that is the way other people have used it. I do like to use it for baths and things because I do find it just so clarifying and cleansing. But you just have to use a little bit. So awesome. All right. So I wanted to talk about building altars next. This is a topic that many people, it's so personalized and it's such a personal experience, but they have a little hesitancy about this. And I'm someone that I love having altars. I have altars in most rooms in my home. I recommend at minimum one in the kitchen or your living space where you are the most. You want to be able to see it and interact with it. And then I do recommend having one that's in a place that's just for you to access. So especially if you're someone that shares your home with many family members, I understand having multiple places can feel like a lot, but at least having a personal space, even if that's just on top of your dresser or maybe in a small area in your closet, you know, whatever feels really private to you, where you can kind of keep the energy what it needs to be. Now, this altar space can be just a mantle, it can be atop of a dresser, it can be a shelf on a bookcase. And I really like to include living items like flowers that honor the season we're in. We really want to honor the earth and her cycles that she's in. And so it's such a beautiful way to kind of bring that energy of Pache Mama into the home. I, of course, include crystals. I like to also include art or small figurines. If you've made a vision board, it's a really similar process. And so I don't want you to feel like this is something that's, you know, really hard or you have to put all of this energy and intention in. I would put the same energy and intention as you would a vision board, right? Something that's pretty accessible to you. And you just set the intention for that space and then you gather what calls to you. You know, that's kind of really, we tend to overcomplicate things, and that's really what you're doing here. So I find that choosing a theme or a big goal, you know, or dedicating to the year, right? If you're already thinking about 2025, and that's a really great way to kind of build up your altar. So for instance, if I have like a personal goal with money, creating an altar to honor the energy of money, including real money on the altar. I would not use fake money personally, but of course you can if you need to. And I use herbs that promote prosperity. I'm working with a specific money guide are all really great ways to call that energy in, you know, into your life. Many people create an altar for their ancestors and to honor their legacy that they keep on a permanent basis, which is really, really a beautiful tribute. And that really encourages the wisdom and protection of ancestral spirits in your life. So I have a couple recommendations to reduce stagnancy in altar energy. So you really want to make sure to clean the space frequently, right? Perhaps this is weekly, or at least once a month. I recommend taking everything off the altar, wiping it down with Florida water or some kind of solution to get it clean. And then I would use, you know, like an herb bundle to energetically kind of cleanse and reset a little bit and lightly infuse the space. And this really energetically refreshes the intention you have, and it makes sure that the momentum of change, the momentum of this intention keeps going. Second, I would change out the flowers and living elements before they die. So I don't necessarily like to wait until they die. I want to keep the energy kind of moving. And also, if there's a crystal that's no longer working in the space, or if something seems off on the altar, don't hesitate to switch it out. Sometimes I'll put an altar together and a crystal will work for 2 weeks in that space. but they feel like they've kind of come to completion with their journey with that altar. And that's absolutely okay. I just thank them for what the help they've given and switch out that crystal. Third, you want to spend time with the altar and sit with this offering, right? This is such a powerful space to get downloads and messages from your guide team. And you really want to sit in kind of a meditative state with your altar and you want to spend time there. And that's kind of really important. I don't want you to feel like building an altar is other or outside of you. It's just an expression and a way to kind of sit with the divine in a way that's very personal. And fourth, really don't be afraid to maximize a space or do what may feel silly. So if you want to write letters, if you want to write poems, if you want to sing a song to the altar, put food offerings on it, this is for you and this is your connection to the altar. So I would say there's very few wrong ways to do anything here. So I've covered spiritual tools to brighten up and kind of replenish the energy of your home and tools like crystals that provide physical support. So I wanted to dive into my favorite tools for divination, starting with the tarot. So a tarot deck is a divination tool with a very specific structure of 78 cards. And these cards fall into two main categories, two main groups, the major and the minor arcana. The major arcana is made up of 22 cards, and these are the ones most people have heard of, right? So we have the Fool, the Sun, the Tower, and these cards focus on the overall journey and highlight specific stages in your spiritual development. For instance, if you pull the Fool card and you've been thinking of signing up for a new class or learning a new spiritual tool, that's a beautiful, supportive energy to have, that beginner's mind, right? And then we have the minor arcana, which are divided into four suits. Now, that's similar to kind of a traditional set of playing cards, right? And these suits are the suit of wands, swords, cups, and pentacles. And the minor arcana has more of a narrow focus and can be more reflective of kind of your daily experiences rather than your overall journey. And with tarot cards, you can pull one card, right? You can kind of shuffle, pull a card after you set an intention, or you can set up specific spreads. And some of these spreads are pretty intimidating when you see them. There's like 12 plus cards, it's a whole thing. So I really wanted to just kind of keep the focus today on an easy spread to start with. And that is to pull three cards with the intention of what is the energy of this week? And that can really reflect your past, present, and future. And this is a great spread I love to pull on Sunday evening to sit in gratitude for the week that's concluding, right? I want to reflect on what I've made it through, and I want to usher in the energy of the new week and how I can best mentally prepare for it. I'm looking for kind of what are some themes or pitfalls to look out for. I also really love to ask a question, pull a card, and then I look at the bottom card of the deck. So for instance, if I was here's a tarot deck for those of you watching, kind of shuffling it. Obviously, I would shuffle a lot more. If I was not kind of low on time, I pull a card, and then I look, kind of sit with it, get the messages from it, and then I look at what's reflected at the bottom of the deck, kind of what's holding me back. And I really love to look at kind of what's something to work on, keep my eye on, what's a pitfall, and that's really, really helpful. I also don't want you to be afraid to use the guidebook, especially in the beginning, right? And so after you're kind of shuffling and pulling a card, sit with the overall look of the card. Like, what messages are you getting? What does it make you feel? What's kind of the scenario that comes up first for you? And then I kind of take all that and sit with it, and then I'll actually pull up the guidebook. A guidebook's included with the tarot, and then it just goes into kind of the more traditional takes on what the cards mean. For oracle decks, they are a little bit different, and I really love oracle decks. I find the shuffling of the deck really meditative and calming. It reminds me of kind of card nights with family and an evening full of laughter and fun. And unlike tarot cards, oracle cards don't have a set structure, right? The number of cards and the overall tone of the deck vary greatly. And they have a lot of different themes. So for instance, I brought over a couple that I have. This is one of my favorite new decks. I've had this probably about 2 months now, and this is a divine feminine deck, right? And it's all about the energy of femininity, the wisdom of the divine feminine, and it's so beautiful and really, really lovely to work with. It's also a very gentle energy. Now, it's very different than the next Oracle deck I'm going to mention, which is Divine Masters. And for the Divine Masters deck, I'm pulling this for myself each week to see what guide wants to work with me. I'm pulling this for my clients to see what guide is working with us in the session. It's just a very different energy, but both are Oracle decks. Now, I wanted to talk about how I use both the Oracle and the Tarot decks. So when I'm shuffling the cards, I really want to share my energy with it. I want to thank the angels, the universe, my guides for showing me what I need to know today. And I like to have a few different decks, as you can see, that I use for different purposes. When I'm feeling a bit low or, having a low energy week, I really pull from decks that feel connected to the cosmos, that feel connected to something larger than myself. I also find that Oracle cards have a bit of a more gentle delivery, which is my preference. Sometimes I don't want to be dragged every day, and the tarot can definitely feel like it drags you. Many of my friends need that energy. They need to work with the tarot because the Oracle just doesn't really permeate for them. It isn't something that gives them the messages they need. But I want to feel that gentle kind of nudge rather than that yank, personally. When I'm purchasing a new deck for either tarot or oracle, I really want to open it up and infuse my energy in the deck as quickly as possible. So I do that with an herbal concoction of some kind, and then I physically touch every single card. So I open it up and I'm literally like looking at each card, acknowledging it, giving my energy to it, right? And I'm doing that. And that can take a while, but it's worth it because I want to make sure that whatever energy the deck came with is not the energy that's coming to my card pools. If I've worked with a deck for a while, they can start to feel stale. And so I might do that same kind of routine to get them back in alignment with my energy. All right. So I've talked about a number of spiritual tools today. And my BFF's only tip for today is pretty brief, but I want to make sure that it's mentioned. And that is, you never have to wait for someone to gift you a spiritual tool. There's this kind of nonsense out there that, you have to wait to be gifted a tarot deck or be gifted a pendulum. And there is absolutely no formal process or rigmarole you need to go through to work with a spiritual tool. Find what you want, either online, in person, sit with that purchase for a bit, and then just start working with it. There's no right or wrong way to work with items from source, and it's okay to forge your own path. All right, so in today's episode, we've covered how to build altars, the origin and uses of Florida water, how to create herb bundles and use them in your home, and we had a few mini lessons as well. And I really hope this episode cleared up any confusion on these spiritual tools and can help you feel confident as you continue to build your intuition and spiritual toolkit. Thank you so much for watching Musings and Modalities with me, your pragmatic shaman bestie. Tune in the second and fourth Mondays of each month at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for more fabulous episodes. For those of you that would like to work with me one-on-one with a specific purpose in mind, I have launched a 12-week program that is a quantum leap into a new magical you. This container is an invitation where you leave behind the parts of you holding you back and embrace your next level. This program includes weekly 90-minute calls with me, one-on-one, that cover a personalized daily routine, learning your astrology, your birth chart, your north node, your human design. We'll also have candle ceremonies, past life, and energetic clearings. Additional details can be found at musingsandmodalities.com. Thank you for listening. You've been listening to Musings and Modalities with me, Tristen, your pragmatic shaman bestie. For more powerful healing tools, join me every second and fourth Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. I cover a variety of topics to meet you wherever you are at on your spiritual journey. Learn techniques to work with pendulums, past life healing, astrology, and more. Please share the show and subscribe for more guidance from your pragmatic shaman bestie at musingsandmodalities.com.